Everyone, welcome to our channel. In this video, we will learn some important points related to the lesson Landlords and Tenants under the British and the Nizam from the 8th class Social Studies textbook. Zamindars and peasants in Mughal times. During the time of the Mughal emperors, the Zamindars collected land revenue from the peasants on the behalf of the emperor. They also had a small band of soldiers with horses and guns. Their houses were like small forts called Gadi in Telangana. The zamindars often acted as the intermediaries between the government and the peasants. The zamindars also owned lands on which the laborers worked. This was called their self cultivated land or khudkast lands. Zamindars gave their land to peasants either for share of the produce or for a fixed rent. We call such peasants as landlords. The peasants who cultivate their lands called as tenant cultivators. Thus, the zamindars had two important roles: collection of land revenue from ordinary peasants and owning lands as landlords. Permanent settlement changes introduced by the British. The permanent settlement in 1793 when Cornwallis was the Governor General. According to the terms of the settlement, zamindars were given the powers to collect the revenues agreed upon in auctions. Therefore, it was also called zamindari settlement. They have to pass on 90% of the amount to the government, retaining 10% as collection charges. The amount to be paid was fixed permanently. The Raitwari system. The districts of Bellary, Anantapur, Kadapa, and Kurnool were ceded to the British by the Nizam on account of debt in maintaining the British contingent. This area is known as Rayalaseema. Thomas Munro was appointed as the principal collector of these districts in November 1800. At the time, the ceded districts were in a complete anarchy. There were 8 palegas or petty chiefs in this area. Munro first subdued the palegars and disbanded their armed followers. After restoring law and order, Munro commenced his work of survey and revenue settlement. He devised the Raitwari settlement, which was introduced in entire South India and later in Western India. Rayat means a cultivator. The Raitwari means peasant tenure. It was decided to collect revenue from the actual cultivators or owners of the land who either worked on the land themselves or got the lands cultivated by others. Munro made necessary advances to the rights to purchase seeds, implements, bullocks, and to repair old wells or dig new ones. He argued that the British government should act as a father figure protecting the riots. Developmental activities. Due to the untiring efforts of Sir Arthur Cotton, an anicut across the Godavari River at Dhavaleshwaram was completed in 1849. An anicut was built over the Krishna River at Vijayawada in 1854, which brought prosperity to the delta areas. After 1857, the Karnool Kadapa Canal was built to bring waters to the dry areas of Rayalaseema. Even in the Raitwari areas, the land revenue was fixed at a very high level. Unlike the Zamindari areas, it was fixed for 20 to 30 years. The tenants had to pay rent that was 3 to 7 times more than the land revenue paid by the ryots to the government. Commercialization and moneylenders. In 1861, there was a civil war in America and British factories turned to India for the supply of cotton in the hope of getting high prices. The Civil War in the USA ended in 1865 and the demand for Indian cotton fell and so did its price. Cotton that fetched 12 annas per kilo in 1864 now fetched only 6 annas per kilo. Thousands of people died of hunger in the famine known as Ganjam famine. Due to impoverishment, many people were forced to migrate to countries such as South Africa, Fiji, Mauritius, Burma, Malaysia, and the Caribbean islands as indentured laborers and coolies, as there was a need of work on the sugarcane and cotton plantations. The Zamindars' exploitation of the peasants. During the colonial period, the peasants were forced to do vetti on the personal land of the landlords. Bengal, Bihar, and Uttar Pradesh had many powerful zamindars. Doras and peasants of Hyderabad state. In the Hyderabad state, under the Nizam rule, there were many forms of subordinate chieftaincies like Jagirdars, Samantanmandas, and Inamdars who ruled like independent chiefs. They collected revenue from the lands under them and gave a small part to the Nizam as peshkash and kept the remaining with them. In the Hyderabad state, there were about 1500 jagis spread over 6535 villages and 14 samsthanams over 497 villages. About 1400 villages were directly under the Nizam as his personal jagir. In the first half of 19th century, they tried to collect maximum land revenue through Deshmukhs. The old landlords were compensated with an annual payment called rusum. The large landlords were called duras. The duras lived in large fortified houses called gadi and had a large retinue of servants and soldiers. In the Eastwell, Mahbubnagar and Nalgonda districts, there were 550 duras who owned more than 1,000 acres of land. There were landlords who owned about 1 lakh acres like Visnuri Ramachandra Reddy and Jana Reddy Pratap Reddy. Famines. Andhra, like the rest of the country, suffered from severe famines in the 19th and 20th centuries. The most severe famine, commonly known as the Ganjam famine, occurred during the years 1865-66. Repeated famines occurred in the Rayalaseema districts due to lack of irrigation facilities. Not less than 11 famines occurred during the latter half of the 19th century. Thousands of people died. The peasant movements. The famous peasant movements were the Deccan riots of 1860s, Rampa Fituris, and Mopila agitations, which had taken organized forms. The peasants joined the national movement in large numbers in the 20th century. In 1920-22, the peasants of Awadh in Uttar Pradesh took out huge processions to protest against the Jamindars who were extracting money from them. The peasants formed Kisan Sabhas to carry their agitation forward and demanded abolition of landlordism, reduction of land revenue, and control over money lenders. Thank you for watching our videos. To get a notification of our further videos, make sure to subscribe our channel.